And it wasn't your tired old trope of the robots rising up against the humans. It's not that they rose up against us. It's just that something basically took us out and they just happened to be left afterwards.
The world built more, and so do the stakes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you start off with ribeyes, and then you move up to sirloins.
Whenever you meet B12 and he puts that harness on you, and the moment you first start walking, it's that like apprehension, and then when you find the bags and you put your head in it, and then you just can't walk because you're like,
darn you!
And that part
when
itself,
did Pixar suddenly write this?
Right,
having a dog is like having a 2-year-old. You know, they're always excited. They never shut the hell up, and when you come home, they'll come running at you or whatever. Having a cat is like having a spouse. They love you. They show you in their own way, and if you're lucky, they might actually get in bed with you. Hey everybody, and welcome back to Thread X3 Productions. I am Nick.
And I am Nate.
And today we're going to be talking about a little itty-bitty video game called Stray. So don't stray far from your screen, because we have a lot to talk about. So in no fewer than 5 words, how did you like Stray?
Loved it.
Kitty meow.
Okay.
Like kitty. Per often, please. There we go. That's my 5. But if you want more than that, don't stray far from here. All right, Meow. Let's get started and let's talk about, I guess, more of a synopsis. Meow, what would you say is, your overall thoughts on Stray?
Stray, going into it, I knew was going to be one of those sort of cyberpunk, post-apocalyptic, and I heard that the game was, had a vibe aspect to it. And so I was just expecting to kind of really just enjoy the story and like sit through and just kind of experience this world, and going into it knowing that it was pretty short, helped with that a lot. But I knew I was going to enjoy it, but it was honestly surprised at how much I did after completing it. It'd be the best way I could put it. But just the fact of you literally, not figuratively, being a cat for all intents and purposes, as well as building and showing this really cool and interesting world, it's kind of one of those things that Annapurna is really getting good at. Also, shout out to their marketing team for changing the name of the company to Annapurna leading up to this game's launch.
Yeah, I think the thing I love the most about it is how simple it is, but in its simplicity, it's able to tell a really interesting story and really engage you, throughout. Now, I don't really like text stories. I don't like it when the game basically just says you have to read.
Yeah, that's pretty fair.
So I guess my point is that since I was so engaged in it, really says something, because I think more modern video games, I genuinely don't like when they make me read. I think if I'm replaying a game that I played as a kid, it doesn't bother me as much, Meow, than it did back then, because that's just how I grew up with it. So it just doesn't really bother me that much, Meow. But if it's a new game and it's making me read, I genuinely sometimes just turn off right then. You know what I mean? Like I almost just okay, I'm done. Like, oh God, it's reading or something. Or I will do a version, my own version of speed reading where I just try to get the gist of it and I just A or X, X,
Yeah.
X. You know what I mean? So like I said, so for this to keep me so engaged is really good. I do think it helped that I played through with my daughter Zoe Ann because, you know, now I had to read it to her rather than just, you know, okay. You know, so I think that it really says something for a person like me, ADHD, all this stuff that just keeps me from enjoying those type of games to still enjoy this. And I do think that Kitty is pretty much the main reason that it kept me that it got me so interested. So, you know, background for both of us, we both have cats. You know, I've had cats my whole life. Would you say, I mean, this might be super obvious for you, but just for the audience, would you say you're more of a cat person or a dog person?
Right meow, I would definitely say I'm more of a cat person. And I grew up with a bunch, you know, not a bunch of dogs, but well, no, it was a bunch of dogs. Basically, we kept having litters of Shih Tzu puppies and kept keeping one. So at one point, we had about 7 or 8 dogs in the house. And it wasn't until I moved out and, you know, kind of discovered, I guess, actually living with cats and how much I really did love them. And meow, I'm 100% a cat dad. Like,
yeah.
Every single thing about it. So the beginning first hour of this game was literally just me sounding like, you know, just oh my god, look at that, and I just doing little things. But like, I'll get into that. But one of the things that you had brought up about is the thing that kept you the most interested. You feel like is, you know, Kitty, and I do too. However,
hold on. Seems like you're trying to move on, meow. But maybe you should ask me if I'm a cat person.
Oh yeah. That's good. So what about you?
Yeah, I would have to say I actually have a very similar experience. Growing up, I had 3 main dogs. I say main because I've had dogs since then, you know what I mean? But anyway, so the 3 main dogs of my life were a golden retriever, a black lab, and a Pomeranian. So I would say back then I was way more of a dog person. And then getting out on my own, we weren't allowed to have pets, but that didn't stop us. We ended up getting a cat, and you know, we still have that cat, Meow. And so ever since him, I've kind of been more of a cat person because, like, for one, this was my cat, you know, my cat. But also just the way he is and the way he acts and stuff. Like maybe it's because we raised him from birth, you know, even though I had other cats that I raised from birth, they weren't my cat, but this one is. So like there was maybe just more way of creating that bond. I do have a dog now as well, but I'm not as much of a fan as my current dog as I am in my 3 main dogs that I've had in my life. So I would count the cat that I have now as like my main cat, like the number one cat that I can think of throughout my life. But this dog that I have now, I don't really count it as my main dog. It's weird to say it that way, but yeah.
I mean, it's weird to especially quantize with your pets. Like, I mean, like, but I have 2 cats, and they're both my children. Like, especially Obi, he's my oldest, and he is 100%. Like, there's just a love connection there that it's just, and I think once you share that with a cat, that also makes a lot of the emotional beats in regards to Stray mean that much more because there's more nuance there than, oh, look, the cat's just doing this cute thing right now. So and kind of going to that, you had brought up before how you felt like the cat was the main thing that kind of kept you interested in the game. I feel like I'm in that same camp as well. However, after beating it, I had a gaming epiphany.
Okay.
This game feels like the modern version of the underground sequence from Portal 2.
talking about Captain Caveman?
Yes. Yeah, Cave Johnson.
Cave Johnson. Sorry.
Yeah.
You're right, Cave Johnson.
Yeah, no, the whole part with Cave Johnson, because you're basically thrown into this closed off utopian type of world that's crumbled, and you're having to try to piece together a story with just the surrounding. Now, of course, this is a lot more involved, but it wasn't. It honestly wasn't until the very end, whenever the door is going to open. Spoiler alert, obviously, the door is opening, and I don't know about you, but I stayed there and pretty much watched the opening happen, and it reminded me a lot of like going back up to the surface in Portal 2, like once I was beating it, and just that whole ride, it felt like it kind of had that same magic that made that sequence in Portal 2 so special. Yeah. It's because it's just gameplay. That's really what it is. It's not trying to count on storytelling. It's not trying to count on voiceover. It's literally the world that they built and the gameplay elements that consist of it.
Yeah. I think that is what makes this so unique, is the world building and just the world itself. Because if we didn't get something as fantastical as this, or if we just got cyberpunk, right? If all the robots were regular robots and they were just cyberpunk or something, or maybe they were just people, but they were cyberpunk, so they had cybermen enhancements. I think it would have been maybe just as interesting, but the fact that it's like, here's a world after humans with robots and the way that they've kind of gained sentience and stuff. And it wasn't your tired old trope of the robots rising up against the humans. You know what I mean?
Right.
I really actually like that about the whole story, is the fact that it's not that they rose up against us. It's just that something basically took us out and they just happened to be left afterwards, And I feel like the Zerg or the Zerk, the Zerk, I feel like those are kind of set up as what ended humanity, in the sense that, like, something kept them inside and then they came in and, like, basically ended. So whether it be pollution or greenhouse gases or something, that brought us inside, and then the Zork kind of like, or the Zerk kind of like finished us off, basically. But yeah. I even like how there's even an evolution where they only ate organic matter, and then they evolved to start eating metal as well, because then the robots were in trouble as well. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, it gives you different stakes throughout the entire part of it. And I think that's what's cool, too, is that as the story goes on, the world builds more, and so do the stakes. Because, you start out in the
yeah, you start off with ribeyes, and then you move up to sirloins.
You start off in the beginning area, and it's definitely the more slums type.
That's where you... sorry.
the more slums type. And there's not really this sense of... I mean, there's a sense of urgency, but there's not the sense of, like, panic or anything. Like, there's no real stakes. You're just... I'm trying to navigate this world, and I'm trying to figure out what all this is. And by the time that the stakes are starting to raise, the story has already picked up, and now you're on this, like, basically... journey to free society in a lot of ways. And so, once you first interact with the Zerks, they are terrifying. They definitely add a terrifying layer to the gameplay. And I can't tell you how many times I audibly yelled in those running sections, serpentine, because it was mostly a motivation for myself, because a lot of times I was just running straight and I kept getting them latched onto me. But that goes into the gameplay too, is by the time that because I think I easily spent about 3 hours in the first level, in the first area.
First, like, main hub.
Yeah, and so by the time that I was ready to move on to the next, I already had a good sense of how the game's going to play and kind of what to look out for, and kind of what, I could see an area and be, okay, that's probably an area that has like a memory in it or something. Like it's an area I need to explore. But I'm also more interested in the story because at this point in time, you've now discovered and gone through these different houses. You're starting to piece together this thing, this grand story, and you're starting that adventure. Mm-hmm. So by the time you're technically getting started to go through the rest of the game, I mean, you already feel confident in kind of what you know how to do. And then that's when they introduce a new thing like the Zerks, and you kind of have to figure out how to play again. So It keeps you on your toes, but in a very organic way.
Yeah, let's talk about the gameplay in general, because that is obviously what's key here. This goes back to what I was saying about how simple it is, but yet it is done just so well. Like, there's a jump button, but you don't just jump around all willy-nilly. There has to be something for you to jump on. So every surface that you can or cannot jump on has been thought of in this game, right? And so if they don't want you to jump on something, there's an environmental reason for you not to jump on it, rather than, like, God forbid you look at something and be like, I could jump that. And then you spend like 5 minutes trying to jump and you're like, I can't. Any other game, I feel like that would happen, right? But in this, it's like, I know beyond the shadow of a doubt that I can or cannot jump something. And that simplicity is nice because it keeps the pace going. You mentioned the shortness or whatever. I'd say there are certain games that I want more, and there are other games that go on for too long. I really feel like this game found the perfect amount. I don't feel like I was meandering around, and I don't feel like I went through it too quickly. Yeah.
Would you say in that situation you were meandering?
Yeah. No. And I do think that that's 100% up to the design of the levels and the design of all the mechanics. I don't feel like I was just scratching my head. And if I was, I could walk around a couple of times, maybe talk to a couple of people, and suddenly I'd know what I was doing, And I mean, they do just an awesome job at, like you were talking about before, that beginning area. This is just, hey, we're going to teach you how to play the game. So boom, here you go. You're just with your cat buds and you're just hanging out or whatever. And you're like, hey, let's go for an adventure. So you start going on this adventure, and then you fall away from them. But then from there, they don't have text just come up on the screen and say, hey, you should follow that sign, right? Instead, no, it's like this sign just lights up and you're like,
it's all contextual.
Okay. And then I go over here and all of a sudden the sign spells out help. And it's like, oh, this is being done by somebody. Because, I mean, at first you could be thinking to yourself, oh, this is just the developers, right? But the first time you see that camera and it kind of goes, and you're like, oh, okay. And then you see the lights go on and you're like, I'm going to go this way because the developers are trying to tell me to go this way, right? You're like, we've been playing games long enough that we know when the developers are trying to tell us something. But then that kind of light bulb moment, pun intended, when it spells out help, we're like, oh no, this is actually something trying to get us to go this way. Okay. And that really kind of drives us or whatever. And that drive to always find the next thing, find the next ledge is always there throughout the entire game.
I agree. And I think for me, as much as I enjoyed the first 3 hours, it was a little bit of a struggle, and nothing because of the game. 100% on me. 100% on me, because like you said before, we've been playing video games so long. So when it comes to games like this, I'm used to, hey, you know what? Let me do stuff out of the box, because I have a feeling that's how I'm going to figure it out. Which led to multiple times where I literally made the game so much harder for myself. The prime example, especially in this area, it happened a couple times throughout the game, but this time in particular, I had to find the detergent so I could trade and get the quilt so I could get the thing fixed. And one of the things that you come across, which I didn't realize was, I just thought it was something that I was supposed to do, which technically you are, but I mean, it's kind of technically like just a random world event if you look at it. You've got those two robots that are tossing paint back and forth. Well, I caused him. I did this early on, like when I came across these guys and I realized I could meow and mess with them, I did. And so that caused the shop owner downstairs to come out and start to clean. And so this was way before I got that quest too. And so I'm starting to find the stuff, and then I am trying to scurry around this damn city, trying to find where this detergent and where this laundry shop is. I'm going back. I'm looking at all the signs. I've at least gone a couple different times. I feel like I spent 30 minutes just looking for it. And then I'm going, and then I see that same guy I've seen clean multiple times, but I realized I didn't ever actually stop there. And so I go up a little bit, I stop, I come back, look up at the sign, sure as shit, it's the fucking laundromat. And I'm like,
yeah.
But
funny thing about that is that I did it. I did it, and then I was like, oh, you know what? That probably does something. And then, yeah, we saw the guy come out. We went straight in there. Ooh, there's the detergent. Because I was very much in the explorer phase of going in there. So I was already like, let me get into every nook and cranny. So I immediately was like, oh, hey, that door's open now. So my thought went straight that. However, in the hindsight, replaying that area, because we tried to replay with my wife, and so we started it over. If you go to that door, the robot basically says, hey, you better calm down out there. You better not be one of those guys throwing the paint. I don't want to have to go and clean it up. So it's like it prompts you really nicely, even if you don't come across it or whatever.
Right. Well, another thing that I feel like was challenging was getting used to the perspective of actually being a cat, because we've never really gotten that in a game like this before, ever. And so for me personally, one of the challenges I was running into was the scale, where usually if I can't figure out where to go, I'm just going to climb up to the roof of a building. And I could in this case, but it had to be a lot more tactically, because I had to get up where a cat could get up. And so I feel like there was a lot of times where I wasn't used to being at like such a ground level that it was kind of overwhelming at times trying to figure out where the hell I needed to go. I honestly feel like that's the biggest problem in the first part of the game, though, because the rest of it not only is fairly linear when it comes to the world, except for maybe Midtown, but you also really don't have a lot of areas to get that lost in. I don't feel like.
Agreed. Yeah, that first little area. I think the biggest thing for me was getting all the soda cans or all the energy drinks.
I missed one, and then I had one sheet music that I was missing.
Yeah. Oh, well, I got to the point where it's like I only needed one, and I had like this quest or whatever in the back of my head that it's like, you know what? I bet if we do this, they'll just give us an energy drink. And no, I just had to find the one vending machine that I hadn't found before.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of funny. But I think this is, it's so lovingly crafted. And the thing that does blow my mind is the fact that this is like the company's first game officially. So it's like, that's awesome. I'm glad that this is their first game, because in this game they have shown how much they just get game design. Because I feel like even if you did, it would make the game way worse. But even if you replace the cat with Ratchet and Clank, or or just a human, right? But maybe they're smaller because the robots are huge or something. I don't know. Right. But point being is that you could replace it with anything and it would still be a really good game. Having it as a cat makes it a way better game. But I'm saying that like the way it's designed and everything is done in a way that just makes it a good game regardless of what you're playing as. And so if this is their debut, right? Their debut album, I can't wait to see what their next one is. I can't wait to see what their best one is. You know what I mean? 100%. I don't think this is their best one. I think this is as simple as it is, right? This is their first one. It's when we played Arise. Arise is Piccolo's first game as well. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, they got it so good, and so did these guys. So it's like, I can't wait to see the next game. What do they have in store for us next? Because it's like, if they just understand the fundamentals of what is a game, what can a game explore, what can a game tell us, they already understand that, right? So now it's just about what's next, right? And I cannot wait to see what they have in store for us, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, even just the story too is a testament to that. Because they have shown that they know how to craft a very well told story that also has some complexity in there and nuance that you kind of don't really, most people I feel like don't think about.
Right.
I feel like this is definitely one of those, it's not an indie game, but it is. And I'm using that term in the sense of, it does not feel manufactured.
Yeah.
It does not feel like it's a triple A game that's going to have the typical tropes that everyone's going to buy and sell. Like it feels natural. And everything about it doesn't feel forced.
Yeah.
But even with the story overall, it could have just stopped at like a cyberpunk. Oh, where did the humans go? But you add the storyline of B12 and everything like that, and then the whole. See, really, once we figured out who B12 was, it made the beginning part a lot cooler because, yeah, you're actually seeing someone who is helping you. But for me, it also kind of added another dynamic to the story. And I'm like, okay, did everybody do this? Did everybody do that?
And I was wondering that myself.
Because they're each one has their own quirkiness and their own personality to it that, I mean, it could come from AI naturally evolving over time, but it also would make just a lot more sense, and I feel like be a lot more of a simple story in a good way to have it just be like everyone uploaded their consciousness. Because it kind of plays into the characteristics of the robots, but also adds that sort of it kind of goes back and adds with the gameplay, like the subtle features that they have. Like instead of them having facial expressions, their screens change. Whenever you rub up against them, they have that little heart. And, it's kind of cool in a way to see the emotions from the robots just by the digital changes in their screen.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, about the storytelling and the way they tell it and the characters and the world that is built here, it's masterful. Because like one thing that you're talking about is the nuance, right? I feel like other people might have just been a little bit more overt about everything. Like, here is your exposition dump, right? Here is exposition bot 3000 and we would have had this just big, but it's like we get a little bit of it over here. We get a little bit of it over here. Momo, I think, is probably the most quote unquote like expositional robot that we meet. Other than that, it's just like, hey, I'm the leader of the slums and this is our thing or whatever. Hey, you just showed me a picture of outside. It's like, that's a fantasy or whatever. So they don't just like come out and say everything. I think the way they roll out the story and the way they do that is masterful because, like I said, I feel like anybody else or whether it be mainstream or independent, I feel like they might have tried to be too obvious about it, for the dumb people in the back, right? But this one respects your intelligence enough to kind of figure it out on your own. And even if there's something you missed, I feel like they tell enough of it outright to make you go, oh, that's interesting. And then all the other nuances are there for the people who really want to dig into the world, really want to figure things out. And so, yeah, it's just so great.
Another testament to that is with the cat itself, speaking of nuances, because you can definitely tell that the people who made this own cats and love cats. Because going back to what I had said before about the at the beginning, like literally from you, like your first interaction when you first get movement controls and it's to go and like kind of like nudge on the other cats, and then just the little things, like the main one that I can remember reacting to was whenever you meet B12 and he puts that harness on you, and the moment you first start walking, it's that like apprehension, and then when you find the bags and you put your head in it and then you just can't walk because you're like blinded. It's just it's really gameplay wise, those nuances like it make the experience that much more enjoyable. But for the emotional parts of it, there's a lot of subtleties that, and I don't know if did they ever name the cat? Like at all?
No,
Okay.
I don't think they did. Other than Little Outsider.
Yeah, Little Outsider.
Yeah.
Well, just a Little Outsider. So, as far as Little Outsider goes, there's a lot of different moments where they're interacting with either Momo or the other characters where, you know, they'll meow or, you know, they'll there's a dialogue that it's trying to show you that they're trying to have. But you also get a sense, especially if you are a cat owner, of the emotional effect that the cat is showing. And it's not just being a cat. I mean, I feel like the best example of that is definitely at the end. And you kind of talked about it at the beginning, you know, when it comes down to the whole game, you kind of have the sense of like ambience and like mystery, and you kind of start to feel a little sadness when B12 starts to kind of expose a little bit or exposit a little bit. But you get to the ending, and you're having to start it up, and he flickers that first time, and you're like, oh, this is going to hurt.
Yeah.
This is definitely going to hurt.
Kill the goddamn drone. The toy drone. I'm going to be emotional over a toy drone that technically is a person, but still, they're going to make me care about a robot. What is... Darn you!
And that part
when
itself
did Pixar suddenly write this?
Right. Well, and that by itself is sad, but add on to that the Little Outsider interacting and like then going to lay beside him like his friend. He just lost his friend. It's like, oh, man. It's like there is I feel like a lot of people who don't own cats don't really understand cat love, and it is one of those things. It's something you just kind of have to feel. It's not super obvious, but like, you know, there's a lot of pictures.
That's why there's so many dog people out there. They're like, oh, this thing loves me because it's showering me with so much affection.
Yeah, but it's like when you
so hold on. Having a dog is like having a 2-year-old. You know, they're always excited. They never shut the hell up. And when you come home, they'll come running at you or whatever. Having a cat is like having a spouse. They love you. They show you in their own way. And if you're lucky, they might actually get in bed with you.
I can't argue with that. I can't argue with that one bit. But no, able to like wrap that up at the very end with a nice little bow like of emotion, while you get these little sprinkles of like, you know, kind of wonderment that, you know, Little Outsider has, because he's just a cat in a robot world. I mean, wandering around. So literally everything about the game overall, like you said, shows that they are... it leaves you excited to wonder what's going to be next. Like a good example, when you're talking about that, I thought about like Jedi Fallen Order, because technically that was Respawn's first third player action type game.
Right.
And while it was great and it was fun, I can't wait to see what they do with the next one, because they left, I feel like, a lot to be desired. Whereas with this, I have no idea what to expect if they make if they make another game.
Right.
If and when they make another game, because I just hope to have the same gameplay elements and the same subtlety when it comes to the storytelling. That's all I can hope for. Yeah,
I hope they can still build a world that I give a crap about and not like shove my face into everything, because that is what makes this so good.
Well, when you make a mess, that's really the main way you learn to not make that mess anymore, is having it shoved in your face. So,
anyways, what would you say is your, if you have any, what would you say is your biggest negative of the game? I
feel like, as much as I love the non-hand holding part of the game, and how it doesn't really guide you through. I do feel like sometimes it can be at a detriment. Like, even if you give me, like, how you press down on the D-pad to bring up B12, even if you were just give like a little, like, sort of subtle hint location wise, or maybe just give me like a text like, hey, maybe you should look towards that sign. Because, you know, I had that issue where I made it harder for myself on a couple different occasions. The second one, which I actually do feel like is the worst, was in Midtown, where I couldn't figure out how to get past the police blockade. I went around both sides of the like alleys trying to find a back way around when I literally just had to walk under the fence.
I laughed because I went straight through it and didn't bother me at all.
I stopped right before I got there. I was just talking to the people. I was like, is there a way how I can get through this? And I sat for about 10 minutes. I went back and forth. I'm like, how do I get around here? And then I went back up and then I eased forward. And I was like, motherfucker. So, like, for people like me who try to make it harder on themselves and don't mean to, I feel like that can cause a little bit of like frustration. Yeah. And there were a couple times where I did have to look up certain things, like where the cameras were in Midtown, but that's not a problem of the game. That's a problem of of my history of playing games, is because they made it simple. I'm the one who made it much more difficult.
That's funny.
So,
I would agree to the most part, but if I'd have to say one thing, just one negative thing, because there's very few in my opinion, my one thing is sort of the ending, you know. We walk up, we kind of look back, and then we just keep walking. And I'm like, well, does he make it back to his buddies? Yeah. So I sat through the entire credits hoping for a Marvel Cinematic Universe post-credit scene where he meets back up with his buddies. And I never get that. And I was so disappointed. I'm like, that was the whole reason. Sure, I saved humanity, but that was kind of a secondary objective. I wanted to get back to my cat buddies, okay? I wanted to get back with my pals, you know? And the fact that I just never kind of got back to my family, essentially, I'm like, fuck.
It does leave it still ambiguous, though, which I feel like is one way to look at it. You know, it does leave that whole like, oh, I didn't really get to see the outside. I just know it's there. But yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see that.
So anyways, that is what we think about Stray. We absolutely love it. And free or not, I think that's, you know, it's
definitely worth the $30.
1,000% worth it because, if you just want a game that just has good game design, you know, and is a good game, like, I think this is definitely what you need to look out for. So
if you also want something to just chill, that's another option. You can literally just sleep and listen to the music, which is a really cool feature. But I will say that since I did play it on a PS4 Pro, I am excited because I didn't do all the memories. I am excited to replay this and 100% it when I get a PS5 because I can already tell that lighting is going to look so incredible with that ray tracing.
Did it vibrate when he purred?
Yes.
Yeah. I would like to almost like download it on the PlayStation 4 just to see, because it's like when you feel it on the haptic feedback or whatever, it definitely I didn't feel it like that. Yeah, I didn't feel it wasn't subtle. Like I could feel it every now and again where it was just a typical vibration, but I mean it wasn't like. But yeah, when he purrs, it's so much more. Like,
that's cool.
Definitely one thing about haptic feedback that I have to say. And like when you're scratching on something, there's a little bit of resistance, you know.
I like that. That's really cool.
So, I mean, for you in particular, there's definitely a reason to revisit on the
100%.
On the PlayStation. So, all right. So, what did you guys think about Stray? Have you played it? Hopefully, because we just ruined the entire thing for you.
100%. Yeah.
So let us know down in the comments below. I was Nick.
And I was Nate.
Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe for more videos like this and our series, It's Free, So Why the Hell Not? Or ranking movies. check out that one as well. Thank you guys so much, and you have yourself a good day.
Meow.